Welcome back to Southpaw Picks, and this is the post-weigh-in show of UFC 271, Adesanya versus Whittaker. On this show, we're going to be releasing our bet picks for the weekend, giving you our final thoughts and our final predictions for all the outcomes of the matches. We're going to be starting from the main event down, and very excited to do so here. What a great middleweight fight we have. Adesanya versus Whittaker 2. And over the course of the week, doing my tape study and really getting into the nitty-gritty of all of it, you know, Robert Whittaker is just in the Israel Adesanya era. And him being in this era, unfortunately for him, he's going to have to compete against someone at that level. Now, Robert Whittaker does have the skill sets to win. Over the course of their first matchup in the first round, right before Israel knocks him down to solidify it, the fight is fairly close. It's fairly competitive. Robert is landing a lot of outside strikes. He's poking at the knee. He's getting a couple combinations. Israel is landing counter shots, but Robert Whittaker had more volume and had a lot of significant blows. Right before the end of the bell in round one, Israel hits him with a counter shot and drops him. Solidifies the round. Had he not dropped him in that round, I think it would be 1-0 Robert Whittaker. Now, it does give me the idea that, well, can you win this fight? Yeah, he can. But looking at the Israel Adesanya from that fight, he's a far better fighter than the first time they faced. And whether they both have made strides in the right direction, I do believe at this point, this version of Israel Adesanya is going to make this fight look way, way, way further than the first time. So, my final prediction in the middleweight championship will be Israel Adesanya, and I think he wins by decision this time. Maybe a 4-1. Probably gets rocked a couple times during the fight, but I'm going to go Israel Adesanya by unanimous decision. And yes, will be a leg in the parlays released at the end of this video. Moving on down to the co-main event. Going over this, at first I was all, Derek Lewis. Man, you go and look at the evolution of Tai Tuivasa's game and the implementation of the leg kicks and the pacing. He has a lot more volume than Derek Lewis. If Derek Lewis doesn't get the KO, it's fair to say that Tai will win a decision here, just based on volume, based on accuracy. Derek Lewis tends to hold that right hand like a loaded weapon and really tries to throw it at opportune times. Now, we saw him get that knockout over Chris Daukaus, but in a position I just don't see Tai Tuivasa in. I mean, Derek Lewis had 30 pounds on Chris Daukaus, and in this scenario, him and Tai Tuivasa are both coming in the heavyweight limit. They're both big boys. Tough prediction, it really is, but I'm actually going to go with the younger fighter here in Tai Tuivasa, and I think the fight's going to turn out to be something we didn't expect. I think Tai Tuivasa survives early and is able to win a close decision in Derek Lewis's hometown. I'm going to go with Tai Tuivasa via split decision in Houston. Moving on down here, we got one of the future fights on the main card, Cannonier versus Derek Brunson. Now, I was surprised to see that Derek Brunson had such a size advantage over Cannonier. Almost a head taller, it seemed. The shoulders were higher, almost the thickness. I'm going to give Cannonier the benefit of the doubt for the fact that he's going to rehydrate and blow up a bit bigger, but we know Derek Brunson is going to be the bigger man here. So we have somebody whose game plan is to wrestle, and he is the bigger guy here, and he is the underdog, and he has cashed as an underdog continuously over the course of these 6 fights. Now, obviously, Cannonier has fought a very, very tough schedule of competition here. I do feel like in my head that I'm going to just see Derek Brunson really try and shoot deep shots on Cannonier, but I actually feel like the size of Cannonier is going to play into his favor. Being a shorter guy, it's a little bit more difficult for Derek Brunson to get to the hips, as he's gotten in his last few situations where he was a smaller fighter against Darren Till and Edmund Shabazian. I really do like Cannonier's speed. The size of Brunson worries me. This is a really close fight, but I'm going to side with the favorite here in Cannonier. I think he's going to get the shot he needs. I think he gets the KO, Brunson's gonna panic Russell. We've seen him hurt in a lot of these fights too. He gets stung and it just horrible looking reaction. I know Cannonier can hit him with the leg kicks. I know Cannonier's strong, but the size difference does worry me here. But final decision, Jared Cannonier, the killer gorilla, by KO. And moving on down, a fight that got moved to the main card, interestingly enough. Lightweight bout between Alexander the Great Hernandez versus Renato Moicano. Now, another situation where I was surprised, right? Surprised on just how much bigger Renato Moicano was. You know, a guy that fought at featherweight, you'd think that Alex Hernandez would have a decent size advantage, if not be in the same ballpark. Renato towered over him, honestly. And Renato is a very, very skilled BJJ practitioner. Now, he has a chin that has been worrisome. Obviously, at lightweight, we take a quick look here. At lightweight, he suffered a KO loss to Fiziev, but that's an elite fighter. And that's it. I mean, other than that, he's lost to Chan Sung Young, obviously the Korean Zombie, overhand right, Jose Aldo, obviously, and Brian Ortega. These guys are top competitions with a win over Calvin Kattar, Cub Swanson. Come on, these wins are way, way, way more advanced than any win Alexander has. Partially to the Beneil Dariush win, that, you know, Beneil probably didn't know what this kid had to offer in that scenario. So I'm going to go here with Renato Moicano. I like the size advantage, and he's someone that I'm actually going to be working into a play, part of the parlays that I'm going to show you. So moving on down with that, we got another lightweight bout with Nasrat Haqparast versus Bobby King Green. This is an interesting fight. Bobby's coming in as the favorite. We know, you know, when fights go to decision, sometimes more than sometimes it doesn't go Bobby Green's way, and he's had really bad luck with decisions. It's based on his fighting style. You know, a lot of taunting, and when he gets hit, kind of like, no, it didn't hurt me. It's almost like he acknowledges he gets hit, and to me, Bobby Green coming in, I do believe there's going to be a power disadvantage here. And I can see Nasrat Haqparast with just more and more firepower as far as the strength of these punches. He's also a very, very unique striker. I mean, we've only seen Nasrat have difficulty against Drew Dober, who definitely has power in his hands, and Dan Hooker, who's an elite fighter, you know, a top 10 lightweight. Is Bobby Green a top 10 lightweight? I disagree, even though he's had, you know, very interesting and close fights with these other opponents. One thing you have to consider is styles make fights, and as much as I am a huge fan of Rafael Fiziev, there's something we have to consider. You know, Fiziev and him, they had similar reaches, and Bobby Green being the guy that likes to throw straight shots, and Fiziev being the guy that likes to throw hooks, Bobby Green was really able to touch him and avoid the power game. Nasrat is a clean striker, and Bobby Green does not have knockout power. This is one of my first dog shots, obviously, on the card and coming up in the main event, and it's someone I'm actually going to incorporate into a play as well. Stay tuned for that at the end of the show. I'm going to go with Nasrat Haqparast by decision, and one of those decisions where maybe if you have a Bobby Green ticket, you're thinking, hey, are you sure that's not my W? Are you sure I didn't get paid for that slip? Nasrat Haqparast by decision. And that ends it for the main card. Now we're going to go for the prelim headliner. We got Andrei, the Pitbull Arlovski, versus Jared, the Mountain Vanderaa. Now, Jared is a big boy. Although I did think he would be a lot bigger than Arlovski, he really didn't look in shape as he usually does. But we already know Jared is able to carry a decent pace. He doesn't have knockout power, but if he does get on top of Arlovski, it's going to be a short night. Although, Arlovski's only really losing to killers, and I just don't see Vanderaa at that level where he can really rock the chin of Arlovski. I can see Arlovski really staying on the outside, working his jab, working good leg kicks, and really much having a masterclass performance here and avoiding the big shots. The age does worry you. You know, Arlovski's 43. He's been in the game a long time. But I'm going to say he picks up the win here. And, you know, shows Jared Vanderaa that he just doesn't belong in the UFC. He's not that level, right? I just don't see Andrei losing to a guy this caliber. So I'm going to go with Andrei Arlovski by decision. Moving on down, we got the flyweight fight between Roxanne Modaferri versus Casey King O'Neill. This is Roxanne's retirement fight. She came out, she looked very fiery at the face-offs. Casey O'Neill met her right in the center. She's not afraid. Roxy's not afraid. This is going to be a good fight. Casey always brings it. Now, does Casey deserve to be a minus 500 favorite? No. And as much as I would love to parlay her, that price is outrageous. It's not worth the value. It's not worth the value. It's a no bet. If anything, you live bet. If that fight doesn't go Casey O'Neill's way and you start to see it start to taper off Roxanne's way in the second round, maybe you could think, because Casey's been finishing a lot of these fights, she may not have a third round in her. It's very likely. I would say Roxanne Modaferri live bet, but gotta go with Casey King O'Neill. She's just been so mean, so vicious, great pace, great volume, and I think she's the better and the younger fighter at this point. Casey O'Neill, I'm gonna say she gets the rear naked choke and sends Roxy off into retirement. Thank you for incredible fights from Roxanne Modaferri. Moving on down to a fight that was pulled off the main card and now stuck in the prelims. I'm sure the Matrix ain't happy about that, but we got Kyler Phillips versus Marcelo Rojo in a bantamweight bout. And this is going to be a great fight. You know, you already know the Matrix likes to stay on the outside, long jabs, great spinning attacks, great kicks, great grappling. And then we got a guy in Marcelo who's just a pressure fighter, good body shots, good hooks, does leave the chin open to being exposed. But, man, he sized up really well with Kyler Phillips. And Kyler Phillips is coming off a loss when he was a ginormous favorite. And yes, I do remember very clearly that it should have been a draw, or maybe you give it to Kyler Phillips. I don't think Paiva deserved the win in that spot, but he got the win in that spot. A guy who's a flyweight, a guy who Sean O'Malley just put out in the first round, and Kyler Phillips did have the opportunity to get the finish. The ref didn't stop the fight, and he had to continue to fight. Maybe he used a bit of his gas, but I was surprised that Rojo was the size he is. Now you have to wonder, will Rojo be able to take some of the shots? Kyler Phillips isn't as big as I thought he would be in this matchup. I'll tell you what, at plus 300, Rojo is a very, very juicy underdog here. Especially Kyler Phillips, you know, coming off a pressure situation where he should have won the fight. You know, he's again in front of a crowd. He likes to play it up for the crowd. Could he make a mistake? He is a superior fighter to me, but the size is interesting. And Rojo has a dog in him. You know, he's a very aggressive fighter. Still gonna go with the Matrix here. I think he's just an overall outstanding prospect, and I do believe he's belongs in the top 10 of this bantamweight division. So I'm gonna go with Kyler Phillips, but be wary. You know, anybody that wants to take the shot on Rojo, I don't blame you, but Kyler Phillips by KO, second round. Moving on down, we got a light heavyweight bout between Carlos, the Black Jag Ulberg, versus Fabio, the Water Buffalo Cherant. Obviously, you can go back and look at that fight between Carlos and Kennedy Njoku and make your own opinions on just, you know, oh, he gassed out, he got hurt. To me, it stands that he threw 146 strikes in under 10 minutes. That is an incredible, outstanding pace for a light heavyweight fight. That light heavyweight fights don't even have that much strikes in an entire contest, and he threw it in 10 minutes. Now, why didn't Kennedy go down? Kennedy had some kind of mutant durability in that fight, and he was able to withstand it, and Carlos was able to burn out his gas tank and then started to get hit by a guy with longer reach and a bigger guy. Now, we got a guy in Fabio Cherant who, you know, not a top-of-the-line fighter and not that big of a guy and does not have the reach in this situation. You know, capable fighter as far as the strikes go. He does like to pop from the outside, and he can take it to the floor if necessary. Carlos Ulberg's striking is so elite, very similar to Israel Adesanya, not just because they come out of the same camp, but very similar to their approaches with the lower leg kicks, lifting it up high, the body shots, the counters. I think Carlos Ulberg is the real deal. The UFC wants this guy to win in this spot, and I believe he does win in this spot. Does he get the KO? I'm a little on the fence with if he gets the KO. I do like the KO line for him at minus 150. It's a a lot better than the almost minus 300 tag they got here for Carlos Ulberg. But it could be a situation where he acts extremely patient, completely stays on the outside, manages his gas tank level, and just stays an inch ahead of Fabio Cherant in every exchange and wins a decision. But I like Carlos Ulberg here, and I like him big. Give me the blackjack. Moving on down, we got another bantamweight fight with Ronnie Lawrence and Mana Martinez. Ronnie Lawrence, terrific fighter, right? But this is the first time I'm dealing with him coming in at such a heavy price tag. He did look bad on the scales, but on the face-off weigh-ins, he hydrated quite a bit, and you really just saw how, physical he is. Martinez does have the size advantage, does have decent boxing. Ronnie Lawrence does leave his hands down despite the superior grappling here. He's a minus 400 favorite. I mean, that is not something bettable. And a guy like Ronnie Lawrence and Casey O'Neill, these are some young prospects that you want to get behind. But at those tags, it's not profitable, right? It's not profitable. So I got to lay off betting on my guy Ronnie Lawrence, hopefully in the future. But I think he does work here, puts on a clinic in the grappling, and gets the rear naked choke on Manny Martinez, probably in the second round. Ronnie Lawrence, rear naked choke. Moving on down to a very tough fight. Very tough fight. AJ Dobson versus Jacob Malkoun. Man, and this is a middleweight bout. We got a guy with only 6 professional fights, and both guys with only 6 professional fights, but one is 5-0, one's 6-0. Obviously, the one loss for Malkoun coming off Phillips on short notice in a quick fight. You give him the benefit of the doubt. He took the fight very, wasn't prepared at all for that situation. But then comes back and puts on a grappling clinic on Abdulrazak Al-Hassan with the single legs and the great jiu-jitsu, decent boxing combinations. And then we got a guy in AJ Dobson who's a berserker. Very long punches, very powerful. He comes at you from the gate. It's one of these situations where is AJ Dobson going to land the punch early and just end this fight quickly? And then we're like, oh, well, Malkoun didn't stand a chance. Or is he going to throw that punch, maybe miss, Malkoun gets down to the takedown, and then we're going to see just how good Dobson's grappling is? Because if you look at it, we haven't been able to really see his level of jiu-jitsu, how good his takedown defense is. One thing we do know, he's physically strong, he's very aggressive, and he's throwing from the minute the bell rings. He's just absolutely firing on all cylinders. This is his first fight, is his UFC debut, and maybe his first fight in a big crowd setting in the last few years. I hope I don't regret this pick, but I'm going to go with Jacob Malkoun just because I've seen more of his game, and I've seen his ability to win out a decision if the fight goes over the course of 15 minutes. And if AJ Dobson has a very strong round and then Malkoun wins the last 2, it would be unfortunate if you're holding that Dobson ticket like, ooh, we almost got it. But if it does blow up here in my face on this prediction, I will not be surprised. I'd rather Dobson win, but I'm going to go with Jacob Malkoun, and I'm going to take him to win a decision here. Moving on down, we got a bantamweight fight with Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Sergey Morozov. Both guys look great. Andrade, as usual, cut up, shredded, absolutely ready to fight. Sergey Morozov, dressed in his flag, has his hat on. Looked like he was, saying to Douglas this is his time and all. Morozov having the size advantage that I imagined him to have. He has the wrestling advantage here. Andrade is a tough guy, and he will hang in there. And he has a puncher's chance to win here. But I got to say, not only am I picking Morozov to win, he is someone I'm going to be backing on that card as far as my bets go. I like his pressure, I like his striking, and I love his grappling. And his level of competition is elite. His level of competition is elite, and he's 17-4. Losses to like Mazar Evelev, that's my guy, Umar Nurmagomedov. He has 2 losses, and the other loss he had, he goes and avenges it and beats the guy, right? So the other 2 losses he had are to guys that are still currently undefeated. I mean, am I going to blame him for losing to someone that nobody has beat yet? I can't. Sergey Morozov winning. I don't know if he gets to finish here. I think he wins the decision as well. Sergey Morozov by decision, and I love this spot. One of my favorite spots on the card. Moving on down to not the pay-per-view opener now, but moving on to the second fight of the night in the prelims. We got Jeremiah Wells versus Mike Mathetha, Mikey Diamond, or Blood Diamond, however you want to put it. Now, Jeremiah Wells, more complete MMA fighter, obviously more experienced, older, credentialed in the Gracie Academy in Philadelphia, so you know he has a good grappling, physically strong, and a great power puncher. Now, the negatives to this, he leads with his chin and throws hooks. Exactly the right recipe for what Israel Adesanya's camp is good at dealing with. Now, from the little bit of footage I was able to find on Blood Diamond, he doesn't fight like how Carlos Ulberg and Israel fight. He's a little different. He actually stays in the pocket. He kind of lets you kind of swing on him, and he lifts his kick up and hits you from all different angles. Very, very tricky fighter. And usually in this situation, I would never bet on somebody who's 3-0. But I'm buying into the hype. It might kill me here. I might be a hype beast in this situation, but I am gonna go with Blood Diamond, and I'm gonna take Blood Diamond by KO. Too much hype from the Israel camp to know that he spent all the time with Israel throughout the years in China training, and this is something that he's been working on. Even though he only has 3 fights, this is something he's been focusing on, making the transition. He's a young fighter. He's had enough time to work under the champion and work under another amazing prospect in Carlos Ulberg, who looks phenomenal, and Dan Hooker in Kaikar, France. Those guys know what they're doing at CKB. And although he doesn't have the experience here, I'm going to take the plunge blindly and choose Blood Diamond by KO. Now, to the first fight of the night, William Knight setting the record for the worst weight miss in UFC history by 12 pounds. 218 pounds he showed up for a 205-pound fight. This is no longer a light heavyweight fight. It is a heavyweight fight. And it makes me wonder, well, is he actually 240 and as far as he could go was 218, or was he 230-ish and the most he could do was 218? It's hard to know. Maxim Grisham came in and did the weight cut. Now, I already like Maxim Grisham in this spot just based on the size advantage he had, the fact that Maxim Grisham has no issue sticking out jabs, has decent grappling, the experience level, over 40 fights, and Grisham's still hanging in there. He looked very impressive against a guy that is very good in Dustin Jacoby, and debatably could have won that fight. I had Dustin Jacoby on my bet slip, so I feel a different way, but very close. And I just think we've seen this fight before, something very similar when William Knight faced Dung Ung Jun, and you really could see, oh, well, he's going to have a tough time with these type of prototypes or archetypes of fighters, guys that are much bigger than him, much longer than him, going to really force him to work to close distance and get in and not really get to throw those big hooks that he likes to throw. I like Maxim Grisham for the first fight of the night, and William Knight showing up that overweight, just, what level of fitness does he have right now? I mean, how hard was he training? He did take this fight on short notice, and he obviously wasn't prepared. So I'm going Maxim Grisham, and I'm going with Maxim Grisham by decision here. So now the fights have come down to 14 fights instead of 15. We lost the Alex Perez and Matt Schnell fight for like the 5th time now. That fight has been canceled. This time Perez missed weight. Last time they all made weight, but Matt Schnell didn't get approved to fight. One time Perez pulled out. I mean, scrap the fight. It doesn't want to happen. So, guys, I'm going to be picking and targeting for my betting plays this weekend. Israel Adesanya, obviously the champ. We don't step in the way of greatness. All right. Another guy I'm going to be getting involved in here is Renato Moicano. Great striking, great leg kicks, great grappling. Alex Hernandez's only chance to beat this guy is by KO. He is susceptible to it, but to these high-level guys like Aldo and the Korean Zombie, guys I don't think Alex Hernandez can hang with. As much as Hernandez may be making a bunch of improvements, I like Moicano in this spot. He's battle-tested. This is a fight he should get done in his sleep. I'm also going to invest the shot in Nasrat Haqparast to win a close decision against Bobby Green, having the better, cleaner shots, and the more powerful shots. I do see situations where Bobby might land off too, but Nasrat really puts the power down when he steps in for those power jabs. Also, another fight I'm targeting, Carlos Ulberg versus Fabio Cherant. I will have a play on Carlos Ulberg, although the price is extremely steep. I don't like it as far as that goes. but a play that I'm going to invest in. A matchup I think is very tailor-made for what he does. And lastly, my guy, Sergey Mozgov and Israel Adesanya are definitely going to be my two anchors when it comes to parlays this weekend. So you got Sergey Mozgov as well. And last but not least, I will be taking the shot on Blood Diamond. Guilty. I'm buying into the hype here. I probably don't suggest you load up on Blood Diamond if you're going to take him, but a little sprinkle ain't bad. A plus 180 dog, that fattens up the ticket crazy. I have the City Kickboxing parlay with Israel and Blood Diamond and Carlos Ulberg and Sergey Mozgov. We got that locked in. That's going to be a fun one. And obviously the one with Moicano as well. So looking out for a great pay-per-view this weekend, full of exciting fights. We got a great card ahead of us. Good luck with our betting pits this weekend. Everybody's going to eat. As you know, we've been profitable all 2022, and we're going to continue that streak. Welcome back to Southpaw Picks, and I'll catch you guys later.